to the bowl, so that your marriage is meaningful, your marriage is filled, has life and activities, and you're deepening that connection and not staying stagnant. Because if you're not growing, then you're losing, or you're not, or you're in atrophy, I guess would be a good word for it. But if you're not growing together, then you might be growing apart.
Yeah. So even as for me, when before getting married, I trying to be a powerful person. Where you prepare yourself to the most. I'm a perfectionist, so I try my best to like prepare myself before marriage, and all those skill sets. But then when we get married, the Bible said to become one. And so I always have a questions like, am I like the Ruby in the singlehood disappear? Now I become Ruby and Drake. Where's the balance? Because some of my mentors say like, oh no, you still have to maintain your personal walk with the Lord, then you can spill out. But then it never. I don't have the answer until like that morning when we have analogy 2 cups in a bowl, like that's right, like we have to fill up our personal cup so that with love, with kindness,
Faith,
goodness, faith,
your activities, your
the
interests.
yeah, that I continue to build myself up in the Lord, and also like who He want me to be, the calling that He's called me to be, like, and then that will be overflowing into the cup, to the bowl of the covenant that Drake and Rubie comes together, and then and this is how we filled up our marriage with joy, love, and peace. And yeah, it just come back to being a powerful person and a whole powerful person, and combined together as two powerful whole people.
Yeah, and then and this might seem a little contradictory, but sometimes the best way to fill your cup up is by letting some things out. So, and at least for me, like I had to think about like, okay, what are the priorities? What are some things that I got to remove from my life in order so that I can bring my whole self to the marriage and to filling up the bowl.
Yeah.
So that might be a struggle that many people have. If you can relate, leave comments or have that discussion, at least with yourself or with your partner, about like, hey, what are some things that you as an individual need to remove from your life in order to bring your whole self to your relationship or your marriage. It could be things that are holding you back, like you know, video games or watching too much TV. Um, what are some other examples?
Well, I mean, like this. I mean, like, I one of the courses that I learned is from Danny Silk, and the pretty much our foundation of my marriage is from that course, which is determine the relationship. And he said like whatever that you do, is it for connections or disconnection? Like if let's say, am I reading this book about certain things? Am I bringing that to the table, or was it my watching TV time taking me away from the relationships or connect me with the relationship? Things like that. So just keep that questions back in your mind, in your head, like, if this questions, if this activities bring me to the relationship or disconnect me from the relationship.
Yeah, he had a pretty good example. We went to a marriage conference with him, not that it was over the weekend, over the previous weekend, and he had a pretty good example or analogy about like your drop menu. So you open up your drop menu on a computer and how many like accessories are there. And he says like the more you get through life, the fewer things that are in your drop menu. And I think that that's true. Like when he kind of gave the example of like not of having too many things in their drop menu is a method in which you can like use to avoid responsibility because you can't be pinned down to one thing.
Yeah.
But as you get older and as things become more and more important and other things, you have to make time for those things and you have to let go of things that aren't important.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not just one side, it has to be both sides.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's Danny Silks. If you guys are interested, he has tons of good stuff.
Yeah, Kylo, keep your love on. Not Kylo Ren, but keep your love on, Kylo. And he has great courses. One that we used while I was on deployment, and we used that to keep connected and to actually build the foundation of our marriage, as Ruby mentioned, was Define the Relationship, or DTR.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something I think a lot of people can benefit from, which is having a goal of the relationship, not just getting into a relationship to get into a relationship because you feel lonely or whatnot, but having an actual goal, mm-hmm. and the goal being marriage, and establishing what your values and what's important to you ahead of time, mm-hmm. or to each other, and having that mutual understanding.
So for this week, I think this is good for, it's an opportunity for you and your partner or your significant one just to ask yourself, like, what do you need to do to build up, to fill your cup with, so that you can together fill the bowl that, your life together. And I think that is, maybe you guys can, pick a place to walk, maybe downtown, maybe to the beach, or if you live in California, there's tons of beautiful, trails and beaches, and or just take a walk, and then ask yourself and then your partner about 2 cups and a bowl analogy.
Yeah, one question that Ruby used to ask me often was like, is your love basket full? Mm-hmm. Like, what can I do to help fill up your love basket? Mm-hmm. It's pretty much like the same idea. Like, what can you do for your partner? Like, what does your partner need to do for themselves? And then take a look inside and say, like, hey, am I bringing everything I got to the bowl? What else can I bring? What do I need to let go of? Mm-hmm. And and then so next week we're also going to talk a little bit more about asking those intentional questions to your partner, and figuring out like how you can get to know them deeper from asking them an intentional question that's not, hey, how's your day, or how are you feeling? Mm-hmm. Those questions are important, not saying that they're not. It's always great to have that check-in time, and but there's always room for more intentional questions that get to deeper connection.
Yeah.
And is there anything you want to add before we sign off?
Well, don't forget to tell us how it goes with, 2 cups and a bowl analogy. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Leave comments and all that. All right, so with that, we just wanted to thank you for tuning in.
Our very first episode.
Yeah, first of many. And we hope that you can take our engaging walk and make this your own as well.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for next week's episode, when we will discuss those ideas of asking those intentional questions. And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for having a good week.
This is Drake and Rubie signing off.